UFC Fight Night, DeRitter vs. Allen, taking place in Vancouver, Canada. It's going to be a great one. I'm really excited for this. Looking for DeRitter to catch that L, and there's a lot on the line on this fight. It's you don't know if he beats Allen, is he going to get the title shot? What if Allen pulls it off and beats DeRitter, and is he going to get a title shot? It's up in the air right now, so really looking forward to this one. Let's slide all the way down to the prelims, and let's start off with Melissa Crowden versus Tainara Lisboa. Now, Melissa Crowden, coming from the regional scene, pretty heavy kickboxer, really good clinch game, tall, lengthy. I really like her fighting style. Hasn't really been battle tested. One fight and LFA with a girl that's actually doing really good in the UFC now. I believe undefeated with all unanimous decisions. So pretty valid loss. I know she has one other loss. Really hasn't proven her wrestling or anything of that nature. So on the other hand, Tainara Lisboa, coming off of a all-right win versus Rivana Oliveira, I believe. Not really liking the performance a whole lot, but she did pull off the win. Pretty experienced fighter in the UFC women's bantamweight division. I'm going to go with Melissa Crowden on this one. I think the younger fighter's going to come in lengthier. I think she's going to impose that striking will on her. She's going to really keep that distance, and anytime she does try and get dirty and maybe go for a takedown, she can really get her will across on the clinch game knees. So Melissa Crowden for the win, the Canadian local. Okay, let's get on to the next fight. Asmat Bakoya versus Yusri Belagari. Now, I know Yusri is coming off of Dana White's Contender Series with a knockout win over some pretty mediocre competition. I believe the guy came in on a short notice, so still looks good. 6'5" for the division, pretty big. I know he trains with Alex Pereira. He's fought him or something like that back in the kickboxing days, professional kickboxing. So definitely a threat, and is gonna be good in this league for sure. But Bakoyev taking out Zachary Reese the way he did, his last fight the way he did, I think he's showing that lengthy strikers aren't a big issue for him. And I believe he can get this fight to the ground, get some good ground and pound, really impose his will in that nature, and pull off a win, maybe a decision. I don't maybe see him finishing him, but I could also be underestimating Bakoyev at the same time. So definitely going to go Bakoyev on that one. That's for the pick. As far as betting on that, I know the lines are pretty wide. Might have to see what's up, put that on a low-key parlay. I don't know. But Bakoyev's definitely the pick starting off. Now let's get on to the next one. The women's strawweight division, Stephanie Luciano versus Rivana Oliveira. Now, I really like Stephanie Luciano's fight style. Kind of similar more so to Melissa Crowden. A little bit more shifty type style, not as stiff, really loose, real comfortable, real confident in the octagon. Both of these fighters coming off a loss. Rivana coming off to Lisboa. She kind of just got controlled. I didn't really see anything from Rivana Oliveira that I liked a whole lot. She just seemed mid in all aspects. On the other hand, Stephanie Luciano, she has pretty good striking. Really fluent. She almost reminds me of Mauricio Ruffy in the women's strawweight division. So I know he just got finished by Denis, but comparison matchup, just stylistically, that's what she reminds me of. And I'm actually going to go with Stephanie Luciano for my pick for this fight. I think she'll be able to get it done. Decision. I don't see her knocking Ravonna out, but you never know. You never know. But all right, let's get into the next fight. We're gonna go with Kyle Prepolek versus Drew Dober. Prepolek not having a lot of success in the UFC. He did have a pretty good matchup. I know he got finished by Denis and Drew Dober coming off a loss as well. Drew Dober, veteran in the game, but it's unreliable. And Kyle Prepolek has really good technical striking. He's not great inside the UFC, but you know it's pretty good. And I think if there is a big dog that can pull off something, maybe a KO by Kyle Prepolek, when you know throwing a couple bucks on that would not hurt. It would not hurt. But my pick is going to be Drew Dober. I just think hopefully, you know, he does fight a little stronger, get some good clinch game, throw some good strikes. I think if he does overcorrect, get a little too comfortable trying to take his head off. Kyle Prepolek has proven to be pretty durable inside the octagon. I don't really see him finishing him. Yes, do I see him catching him, rocking him, stumbling him? Yeah, for sure. But finishing him, I don't see it. I would see more of a counter Prepolek chinning Drew Dober. Can't really rely on Drew Dober's chin these days. But my overall pick is going to be Drew Dober in a decision. But Kyle Prepolek for the KO is pretty live. Throwing that out there. All right. Let's get into the next one. Danny Barlow, Jordan Santos. It's silent D, I hope. Now, Danny Barlow's showing a lot of promise in the UFC, but I don't like his last two performances. And honestly, I don't like the last win that he got over the last loss, because he lost to Sam Patterson, who I think is going to be a big problem for the middleweight division. Champion, probably not, but maybe later on, who knows. But he's a good fighter. I think he just finished Trey Waters. Again, like he's the real deal. So I'm gonna take that loss with a grain of salt. It was the fight before that. I think he was going against Tinikoff, and he was just really hesitant, you know, versus a bigger body type of guy. You know, Sam Patterson is, but he's skinnier. You know, Tinikoff is a lot more, you know, beefy. And he was just really hesitant. I didn't really like that. Now, Jordan Santos has nothing also impressive, you know, in the UFC. Dana White's Contender Series win was, you know, he just showed his grit, and I think that's what got him in. He's definitely a forward fighter. Now, that's kind of where I see Barlow getting uncomfortable. If he can't throw his shots the way he needs to, keep that distance, which Santos is relentless and just marches forward whether he's getting hit or not. And I almost want to go with Santos, but the reliable thing to do is going Danny Barlow. This is definitely a bet I'll be staying away from, because I'm pretty sure Danny Barlow is pretty high. I think he's like a 3-1 favorite, maybe higher by now, and I don't see value on that. So that's definitely a bet I'm gonna stay away. And honestly, yeah, you know, for the pick, I'm gonna go ahead and just throw Santos on that. Yeah, I'm gonna give him the pick. I think he can get a big upset if he sticks with that gritty. And like I said, I'm just going not even off of Danny Barlow's loss. I'm going off his last win, where I just didn't like the performance for the hype he has and how he's coming in. So let's get on to the next fight. Tricky one right there. Again, betting wise, I'll probably be staying away from that one. All right, let's get into the flyweight bout. Bruno Silva and Young Sung Park. All right, Young Sung Park, a fighter coming with a lot of hype. Pretty good grappler, all around guy. But Bruno Silva has, yes, lost his last 2, but to some very good competition. To say he's washed or done, you know, I think he's only 33. How old is he? Let's get down here real quick. It's not showing the age right here, but I don't think he's that old. He's good, you know what I mean? He just had a couple of losses versus very high level. Joshua Van's gonna fight for the title here soon. You know, who really has Young Sung Park beat like that, like of big names? You know, this is a big step up in competition for Park, going against Bruno Silva, and this is another really tricky one. I'm not saying anyone's wrong for betting on Park either, you know what I mean? Why not? But as far as my pick, I'm going to go Bruno Silva. I think this is just a really big step up in competition for Park. I don't think he's going to be able to do much. I just don't see it. So, yeah, official pick is going to be Bruno Silva. All right, let's move on. Charles Jourdain versus Davy Grant. Now, look, when I was watching tape on this one, initially, I was really on the Jourdain side. You know, he's tall, lengthy, good submission game, slick striking, nothing crazy powerful, you know, nothing like that. But I think that's going to be a problem for him from Davy Grant. I think Davy Grant's going to be able to give him some real issues because he likes swinging inside the pocket. He likes getting in there and getting gritty. And as long as as long as Davy Grant doesn't get on top of him, get to the ground in any type of weird way, obviously a takedown will be more security, but in a weird way, doesn't drop him as hard, gets on top of him. I think Jourdain's really live for a submission right there. And as long as Grant can keep it in the pocket, keep it standing, I think he can win this via decision. I don't know if he'll finish. I would say this fight, obviously, definitely probably a favorite to go under, but I can see these guys just having respect for each other in there, especially Jourdain when he feels that scramble, and then I see it going to decision. Davy Grant is going to be my pick. Pretty good fight. I'm actually excited for this one. I think this should be an exciting matchup right here. So let's get into the main card. We're going to go with Kyle Nelson and Matt Frivola. Now, Kyle Nelson, a pretty slick striker himself. Really lengthy. Both of these fighters are obviously coming off losses. I think this is going to be another good one. Honestly, I see Matt Frivola. I see the wrestling pressure. You know, not only is he just a grappler, he's a pressure grappler. You know, there's a difference. It's a big difference in MMA, and I think that's going to give Kyle Nelson a lot of problems. I think Matt Frivola can pressure him, get Nelson worried about that takedown, that constant takedown, that constant fence pressure. And I think Matt Frivola can land a big shot and put Kyle Nelson down, possibly out. He swings some pretty big shots. That's also going to leave him open for a counter. Kyle Nelson, slick striking, you know. I wouldn't bet on it, but my pick is definitely Matt Frivola. I see him using the grappling a lot. I see him just putting the pressure. Kyle Nelson's just not going to be able to do much with it. So let's get on to the next one, Matt Frivola. All right, Matt Frivola. Cody Gibson versus Ari Kulang. I believe Ari Kulang had a fight with Rosas Jr., UFC Noche. Was able to get the second round, but as a grappler, you got to be able to put up more of a battle. And I think round 1 and round 3, Raul Rosas, a very young guy, very young MMA prospect, UFC prospect, was able just to kind of dominate him in the grappling, and I didn't think that was a good look. And Cody Gibson has a tendency to do the same to people. You know, he's a really good grappler. He gets in there, He's okay striking. I think Lang definitely has the better striking advantage. But when it comes to the ground, I could see Cody Gibson really showing him up in the grappling and being able to control this. A little lengthier, little more reach, leg length. You know, he can really wrap around this guy. They're both coming off losses. Cody Gibson has a good loss, very valid loss. That's gonna be my pick right here, and I think I'm gonna lay a little bit of skin on this one. I think I might lay something on this Cody Gibson. I think he's gonna definitely get thrown in a parlay. Actually, have a parlay with him already. If you go to Juice Reels or my Discord, link will be in the bio. You can get access to that for the Juice Reels. It's going to be $9.99 a week for my official plays. I usually lay down about 5-6 plays, 4 to 5 of them possibilities of all hitting. So keep that in mind. But yeah, go ahead. We'll get on from that. But let's get on to the next. Let's get on to the next fight. Manon Ferriot versus Jasmine Jasudavicius. Hope I said that right. Now, Jasudavicius, she's coming in heavy grappler. That's how she's winning all of her fights. Just nonstop pressure wrestling, getting people to the ground. She does have some good submission wins in the UFC. As far as her wins, though, they're okay. They're okay competition. She's able to do that now. Ferriot is coming off her only loss of lately to Valentina Shevchenko, one of the best women's fighters in the UFC. So I think the resumes are going to speak for themselves at that point. She's shown to have great defense, Manon, and I don't see Jasmine being able to do what she does to everybody else. I just don't see it. I think she's going to get pieced up on the feet. I think when she tries to go to the ground, she's going to put herself in danger at some points. Now, I could be underestimating her wrestling, but she did lose to Tracy Cortez. And she's a great grappler. But she lost to Tracy Cortez. You know, this other girl lost to Shevchenko. Arguably, you know, put up a run for her money. Some people would argue she won that. I think Shevchenko did enough. You know, she's the champion. Give it to her. But I think it goes to show a lot about Ferriot, and obviously she's going back to the drawing board. She's improving from this loss. A loss from a legend for these younger people, you know, younger fighters, that's going to teach you something. And I hope that's the mindset. And I think she's going to be able to get this one off versus Jasudavicius. Going Manon Ferriot is my pick. All right, let's get into the next card now. Marlon Vera versus Ayman Zahabi. Now, Zahabi's he's a really good fighter. I know he's on a good little streak right now. He has some losses in the UFC versus some decent competition. I don't think he's gonna be able to strike with Vera by any means. Carlos Vera is a good striker. Carlos Vera also has credible losses in the UFC. Tough guy. He's not gonna, you know, he doesn't get put out. So Zahabi's gonna really have to rely on his grappling. And Figueiredo won by that grappling exchange, but also Figueiredo has a mean striking. And that combination is what's gonna keep you on your toes, guessing whether you're gonna get swung on or shot on. And I think that was what won the fight versus Vera. I don't think Vera fears that same threat on the feet. He's ready for this fight to be on the feet. He's ready to scrap and get dirty with Zahabi. And Zahabi's just going to be moving around, 1-2, moving around. And then she's going to be, you know, 1-2 and then try and throw in a takedown. And I think and I hope that's what the team is doing for Vera. They're getting ready for this grappling exchange. And I think he needs to be ready to really focus on defending and then getting his fights, not being as hesitant as he usually is, but getting this fight dirty, you know, and just really focusing on that shot that's coming to him, because it's gonna happen. That's what Zahabi's gonna have to rely on. He's not gonna want to strike with this guy. So this is a very, very, very tough pick, but I think there's a lot of value in the dog with Vera. You know, his resume, you know, will speak for itself. You know, he's young. He's like 33. Fight years, you know, I know he has a lot of time, but I really think there's value in this dog. I'm actually going to go Vera as my pick. And at first, I was going Zahabi, but I think that this is a big step up in competition for him. And I think this game plan of just getting into the ground with not Figueroa level wrestling is going to work. And yeah, see Marlon Vera pulling this off. All right, on to the next. This is another fun one, I believe. Kevin Holland versus Mike Malott. Now, we all know, if you watch UFC, if you're a bettor, we all know about Kevin Holland. And he's unreliable. He pulls things versus Daniel Rodriguez. You know, I want to pick him. You know, I do want to pick him. Mike Malott is he's honestly just your all around, you know, well-rounded fighter. Not too great at anything, you know what I mean? I would say. Kevin Holland, on the other hand, is very skilled. Very, very skilled, but he's just a dog to the point where it's not good for him. And it probably is good for him. He's probably making a lot of money. He loves fighting, so. But speaking from a betting perspective, he goes out there and he doesn't care about the belt. He just wants to fight. And that gets him in trouble. That gets him losses. And I think if he can go out there with a game plan and stick to it, he can win. But if he just goes out there and tries to fight, I think Mike Malott can capitalize on this. I think Mike Malott can turn it into a UFC fight and get points and all that. And Kevin Holland's just going to be fighting out there. Not worried about points, not worried about none of that. Another tricky one. Like, I honestly think this card is very, very well matched. A lot of tough decisions here, honestly. I only had a few where I didn't have to think about it too much, but just because I want to go against him, as far as the pick, yeah, I'm going to pick Kevin Holland. Let's do it. Let's pick Kevin Holland. Is my money going on Kevin Holland Saturday night? No. Is it going to go on Mike Malott to beat Kevin Holland? No. Not happening. It's not happening. But my pick is going to be Kevin Holland. I'm going to probably stay away from that one. Now let's get to the main card again. What is this card? What's next for these guys? You know, the winner. Fluffy was supposed to fight in this. He pulled out. Rainer DeRidge is now fighting Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen's a dog. Gritty fighter. But when he was fighting Imamov, I don't see him being able to do that to Ritter. And if he does get to Ritter on the ground like that, he's going to kind of put himself in a threat. I think DeRitter's just going to be able to make this fight awkward for him. That style that, you know, no one's used to. You really can't train for a DeRitter. It's like almost like a Sean Strickland or, you know what I mean, Duplessis. This is these middleweights. You can't really. It's hard to train for these guys, you know, unless you're a Hazmat who can just dominate. It doesn't matter. He's gonna dominate you. He's one of the best wrestlers in the UFC. You just, and it's pretty evident. Yeah, my pick's DeRitter. Well, and money is going on DeRitter. I got faith in this guy. I really like him. I like the performance he showed that he can get in a fucking dog war with Robert Whittaker. You know, that's a killer in the division, and he's showing that he went to war with him. I think that, you know, that shows pretty it talks a lot of volume about him. Brendan Allen has some decent wins as well, but he also has some losses in the UFC. And I don't see him being able to pull this off versus DeRitter. DeRitter's he's gonna give him those knees to the body when he presses in. Brendan Allen wants this fight to be a mess. That's what he wants. He wants this fight to be a mess. And DeRitter can fight technically or messy. He can get in the clinch. He can throw the knees. He can throw the elbows. He can throw the check hooks. He got all that in his arsenal. If the fight goes to the ground, he's ready. He's Brendan Allen is a jiu-jitsu black belt, definitely. But he's not doing it to DeRitter. He's not tapping him. He's not knocking him out. Got a lot of money on DeRitter. My prediction is going to go on DeRitter. Make sure you like, subscribe. Go smash that button. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Let's make some money. Go check out the Discord. I'm also on Juice Reels. RHYTHMBETZ. All right.